Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be reading from The World's Best Fairy Tales. This was my mother's fairy tale book when she was a girl, and she read me most of these fairy tales as well. Some of these fairy tales aren't really great for kids actually. Some of them are pretty gruesome, so I might include a rating system with my channel here to warn you of any tales that might be a little bit questionable for children. But this is from Reader's Digest, and the published date was 1967 originally. And we'll just go through the introduction first. Fairy tales and other folk tales are among the oldest works of man. The most ancient stories in this book probably originated in Asia, then passed through Europe and Africa. And every people adapted the tales to their own life, shifting the details to fit local customs. Worn smooth by ages of telling, the stories acquired that distinctive conciseness of form and rapidity of movement, which are among their principal charms. Folk tales were not especially intended for children. Their audience was the young and the old alike. The tales were of all kinds: myths, legends, sagas, fables, comic stories, allegories. The sort that most children like best today is the one we call fairy tales. The fairy story takes place in a strange world inhabited by ordinary people as well as by all manner of extraordinary creatures, giants and dwarves, witches and fabulous beasts. In the midst of everyday affairs, wonderful things happen. Animals talk, and even trees. People are transformed into birds and fish, into objects, and then back again. In this world, virtue is always rewarded, evil is punished, the weak are helped, and the youngest can be the winner. The fairy tale offers reassurance at the same time that it appeals to the taste for the marvelous. A fairy tale may exist in many different versions, recorded in many places. In this book, the earliest stories to be written down were those in the Arabian Nights. The first of these came from India and were translated into Persian in the 9th century. The entire work had assumed its present form by the 13th century. Next in time came the stories of Charles Perrault, who wrote them in his lively and witty style to entertain the 17th century court of Louis XIV of France. Of course, something is lost in translation, but at times there is an unexpected delight. Cinderella's glass slipper is one of the happy mistakes. In the original, it was made of fur. The first systematic recording of ancient tales was done early in the 19th century by the Grimm brothers, who set down the stories word for word as the German peasants told them. Their versions are notable for simplicity and vividness. The greatest storyteller of all was Hans Christian Andersen of Denmark, who arrived somewhat later. His stories enchant the reader with that personal voice which mingles the plaintive and the humorous, whether they are based on traditional material such as the tinderbox, or are wholly original, for example, the Steadfast Tin Soldier. This book has a generous sampling of stories from many lands, and each has the special flavor of the country from which it comes. The Three Bears deserves particular note. Written by the English poet Robert Southey in the early 19th century, it traveled throughout the world and was soon generally thought to be an ancient folk tale. The World's Best Fairy Tales is a rich storehouse containing all the well-known and best-loved stories. There are some for every taste and a good version of each story, good to read and good to read aloud. Listening to them or reading them, children will experience some of the enduring wisdom of other times when the sense of wonder was very much alive.